The world has been fractured, and it is forced into one side or the other, and you cannot have a foot in both camps. It doesn't work.
That's what we're playing the game for.
May the wind of renewal take you to the ends of the earth.
She isn't in control of anything except for who she chooses to love or who she chooses to hate.
They so naturally, so beautifully, so seamlessly capture that feeling.
Man, stop! Come on, we need to go!
There's more options. Like, have you tried sacrificing a goat to the goddess? Have you?
The whole rug is just pulled out. I cannot tell you how much I love this choice. It is so perfect. When the rubber meets the road, when you really get under pressure, do you really believe that? Welcome back to the State of the Arc podcast. My name is Mike.
And my name is Kason.
This is episode 1 of our Expedition 33 story analysis. Thank you for joining us wherever you're watching or listening from. If you're new to our podcast, we handle this a little bit like a book club. Right. So we're going to take the story chapter by chapter. Today we're doing the prologue, and then next week we'll move on to Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and so forth. So if you haven't played the game, you can play alongside us. We will not be spoiling or talking about endgame stuff until we reach that point, but then we will bring it all around at the end. Additionally, just want people to understand, this is a storytelling analysis podcast, not a lore podcast.
Right.
So while we'll will
touch those things
from time to time, kind of dive into lore stuff and explore that, that is not the primary goal here. It is to get into more of the thematic and literary elements, as well as gameplay and how gameplay contributes to strengthening those. So, usually we do our first episode on dev history. We go into the whole, like, how the game was made, who made the game, why did they make the game, what were the things they were thinking about, and what were their goals.
Yeah, allow that to kind of inform the whole playthrough, right? Through the lens of what their intent was, instead of critiquing it on our own, level.
Exactly.
That's not happening
this time.
This time, however.
We are doing a dev history episode.
It's
We're
just going to come
doing
later.
It at the beginning.
or it might come in the middle. I don't know. That might be interesting.
We're still in the middle of scheduling an interview with some of the developers of the game. Yeah. And so this might be an interesting opportunity to try it in reverse, where we play through the game first, get to the end, then do the go back and talk with them about what their goals were, put it all together kind of at the end. And it might be cool to talk to them without having to worry about like spoiler tagging things or anything like that.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
So that might be a good idea, or at least it might work out for this particular analysis. So I sat down to start playing this again. I was streaming it for our patrons and stuff. And it's I think a really interesting, and also I think it's just like it worked fortuitously, I suppose, to have a short break between like my first playthrough when the game came out this year,
just a few months ago,
and then like play it again. There's like enough time for me to have like cleansed the palate a bit, played some other stuff, come back to it and be like, oh yeah, what was this again? And so it's a little bit like rediscovery of certain things that it's like, oh, that's so cool, that's right, and I'm picking up on stuff. But at the same time, it's not so far removed to where I've forgotten everything, and I'm picking up on, plants and foreshadowing and cool stuff that I maybe didn't see on my first playthrough. So I just got to say, first of all, within minutes of picking it up again, I was recaptured totally. Just this game's awesome. I freaking love this game.
Yeah, upon replaying it. Because I some games you wonder, like, is this a game I'm going to want to play again? Is this a game that'll be as fun to experience again?
Yeah.
And so far the answer is yes.
Yeah.
It's really fun, and there is so much I missed the first time I played the game. It is shocking to me how much I missed, and all this stuff I'm picking up on now is like, holy cow, it's really fun.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what you picked up on.
Probably too much.
Because
especially in the prologue.
If you're new to our podcast, Kason is generally our expert on symbolism and some of the more abstract kind of like imagery and how that like ties into things. And I was looking for some of that personally and didn't pick up as much as I was hoping to. So I was thinking maybe you'd come in for the rescue on that side of things.
I got some things that I was very surprised about.
Yeah. So let's just start here, I suppose. The prologue of this game, I think, does a phenomenal job of accomplishing a couple of really important goals. One is, without being verbose, without spending too long on exposition or like hurting its pacing, it moves quickly. It's not like a short, or it's not like a long, intro.
Yeah.
They are able to create an incredible sense of motivation for the characters essentially taking back their agency. Right. There's a big determinism versus agency kind of theme here, which is true of a lot of RPGs of this stuff.
Yeah, philosophical games and stories tend to deal with it at some point. They kind of have to.
Yeah.
It's like a big elephant in the room. Like they all have to kind of talk about that.
Yeah. So without saying, too much, right? While keeping it moving forward, they are able to get across a lot of info about this world and how it works, to do it in a way that in a short space of time, you feel something very, very deeply traumatic and sad.
Yeah.
That I might be the most miraculous part of it is you
just
meet a
few
character
minutes.
and a few minutes later you're like devastated that the character dies.
Yeah.
That was really well done.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about how I think they accomplished that in a minute. But in doing that, they just give you this really, really strong motivation to go and stop this from happening anymore. Like this cannot continue, right?
A lot of connections between this game and that game, by the way.
That's how
Automata.
you feel by the end of it.
Yeah.
It's just incredibly effective as an opening to the story. And this was one of the things that I think I said in our review of the game, is that the hook of the story is one of the strongest I've seen in quite a long time.
Yeah.
It's very, very well executed.
Yeah, it establishes, it doesn't just introduce us to the mystery, it does it in a way that endears us to the characters, and that also, introduces us to a character who doesn't even last for very long, but in whose name and spirit you continue the fight, you know? And it's like, no, we've got to do it. But it's like we didn't even really know that character all that well. And the interesting part about it is that Gustav hasn't seen her in years either. This is his first time seeing her in a long time. So in kind of getting to know this person in a brief period of time, we are getting to know them. But I thought it was interesting that it's like these are people who have a long history, but they have been apart for so long that it's as awkward and in need of new introductions as we need, having met them for the first time.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty brilliant as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, you feel ready to make a change. Like this world needs change.
It needs this cannot continue.
Let's go make a change. Yeah.
To just in brief sort of like summarize what happens here. This story takes place in like 67 years post an apocalyptic event called the Fracture, where the world was sort of broken apart. The island and the city, Lumiere, that this takes place on here at the beginning was at one point a part of like the main continent and another larger part of the city of Lumiere, but was thrown off into the ocean in this apocalyptic event called the Fracture. Yeah. From there, this goddess they refer to as the Paintress every year initiates a countdown that is painted onto this monolithic structure that they can see from the island over on the main continent.
Yeah.
Essentially, whatever number appears on that monolith, anyone that age or older is gammaged, which means like to erase. They're just basically erased from existence. They die. And as that number gets lower and lower and lower, people die younger and younger and younger.
Yeah.
So it would have started at 100. We're down now to 33. This is the number that is painted by the paintress at the end of the scene. Anyone age 33 or over is killed.
Right.
So our POV character is Gustav, and he is going to meet up with an ex-girlfriend, Sophie, who he broke up with about 4 years earlier. They had disagreements about some things we'll get into in a minute.
Yeah.
But there's this moment where it's like his last chance to kind of be with her. They have a lot of regrets. They obviously loved each other a lot and never necessarily got over each other, but just could not seem to get in line with one particular thing. But he spends his last moments, or I suppose her last moments. They spend those moments together. They go to the port, and a bunch of people are gamaged, and he is part of what's sort of an annual expedition that tries to go to the continent, figure out a way to stop this from occurring, to stop the painters from continuing to do this countdown. So that's essentially what happens in the prologue and what we'll be covering today. So my first note was that in this first conversation between Gustav and Maël, they do a lot of setup with very few words. It's really good. And like the dialogue is really well written generally, I would say, in this game.
Yeah.
To where they're speaking in a way where it's not turning to the camera and be like, hey, audience, just so you know, not that as you know type dialogue. They're speaking in ways that are natural.
Yeah, it
the
feels
two of
very
them
natural.
knowing what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But which also do a good job of helping us kind of orient and understand the world we're in. So they make this dark joke right off the bat about Sophie, Gustav's ex-girlfriend, and the gamage coming up.
Yeah.
You're supposed to give flowers to someone before they wither and die. And this is a dual, there's a play on words here, before the flower withers and died, before she withers and dies, because she's about to die today. Pretty dark little joke there. But what I think that conveys is how routine this whole gamage has become. Like, obviously, it's devastating and sad, but they've lived with this every year their whole life. Like, this is a very normal part of their lives. And they've become sort of numb to its cruelty to a certain extent, in a way that I think is totally natural, right?
Yeah.
They also set up the expedition's fight against the paintress, because he's throwing rocks towards her into the ocean. And he's so he has a hand that's sort of like a mechanical hand, right? His left hand, I believe. But he's throwing the rocks with his right hand. And she says, why don't you use the other arm, your mechanical arm? Maybe you can get it closer, to get it further, right? And he says, oh, it's fine. We'll get a chance to do more than throw rocks pretty soon.
Right.
So like all of that dialogue right there sets up essentially the gamage that's about to happen, what the paintress does, and the fact that they need to go fight this paintress and stop it. Right there in the first conversation. Super great, short, and they're like, all right, let's go meet up with Sophie. They head out. I just think it's a really, really nice way to lead into the story, point at the things that are important, make your promises, and then get it moving without, ladening your audience with dialogue.
It's so intriguing, too, that the number is 34.
Yeah.
And you don't know why. And everyone, you get the feeling, somebody's leaving. You mentioned the wither and die part. Is that a joke or is it not a joke? Oh, it was dark. That's not what Maël meant, but he's meaning it that way. They're going to a harbor. Oh, maybe they're just like going somewhere. It's a harbor, right? That's where the ships come. So they do a great job of building up this mystery of like what exactly is going to happen. So long as you don't understand French.
Yeah.
Because gommage it means to erase. It's like a goma, like an eraser.
Yeah.
And it is the erasure, basically, of people. So if you don't know what that means, which I actually didn't when I first played the game. I
didn't either.
I don't know what this word is. It's an interesting word. Okay, let's go to the harbor and find out what's happening. So that was a mystery that slowly builds up as you go, that I thought was really, really well done as well. Yeah. And Maël is fast. As soon as she's like, all right, let's go, boom, like she is halfway across the city. And it's like, wait. It's really fun.
That's an interesting part, and we'll get into this. Well, actually, no. This is part of what we're going to get into today. She cracks jokes I think, at least 2 different times at Gustav about his age. The fact that he's an old man.
Yes, yeah, totally.
Which is really funny.
It's really funny, but he is as old as people get in that world.
Mm-hmm.
And remember when we were teenagers, 30 was like
seemed old.
Yeah. You know, it seemed old. It's funny to put myself, or to even try to put myself back in that frame of mind, because it's like, that just seems ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But to a young person who's never grown up knowing people above a certain age, it's like you are as old as it gets, man.
Mm-hmm.
And what else is really funny is that Mael sometimes can be a little bit, her jokes can touch a little too close.
Yeah.
But Gustav never gets upset about it. He always rolls with it. She makes her jokes about this and that, and he's just like, oh, come on. He'll either crack a joke back, but he never really lets things like eat at him much in that sense, no matter really what it is. And it shows that their relationship is one where, like, if they have had fights about each other's personalities, they happened a long time ago, and they now understand each other really well, and they know the each of them has good intentions, so they don't have to assume like, hey, wait, did you really mean that? Or that never happens. So I really like their relationship too. It's
Gustav
really nice.
And his sister Emma are the guardians of Mael, so they're kind of like foster parents, more or less.
Wait, sorry, hold on.
What's going on?
Is this Potato in our Discord says he's RPG old?
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
Okay, good.
The reason
That's
why
really
I
funny.
love these sort of jabs at him being old is because it's been stated by the developers that this game was highly inspired by classic JRPG franchises.
Yeah.
And one of the sort of fun tropes of those classic JRPGs from the PlayStation and PlayStation 2 and beyond is that your main characters tend to be very young people, late teenagers, maybe even younger at times, saving the world, and their mentors, the old people, the old wizened people who give them the wisdom on the road, are like
need a cane to walk
in their 30s most of the time.
Yeah, it's really funny.
You brought up in our Final Fantasy IX analysis that Cid, the regent of Lindblom, this man who later in the game, when he turns back into his human form, has white hair,
white mustache,
white beard and mustache, is 35 years old or something.
He's 35. I can't remember the exact age, but it was around there. Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh.
And the dude, he literally looks 60, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you have Auron from Final Fantasy X, who's something like 38, but looks like he's about 58, maybe in his early 50s.
Citan
from Xenogears.
Yeah, Xenogears.
He's like this really, really smart, really wise, like professor type. He's like 29.
Yeah, 29.
Cid from Final Fantasy VII is like in his 30s somewhere, and the dude seems really, really old.
Yeah.
So they and I'm excited to ask them about this, but it seems to me almost like a conscious effort that they chose this age of, it was 34 and now it's moving down to 33 as being the oldest people in the society, as a kind of clever callback to that kind of funny trope of classic JRPGs.
That is really funny.
She's poking fun at him for being old, which is funny because we playing the game who are older than 33 are like, that's not old, but it is legitimately old in their world. Gustav really is, by the end of this Gamache, the oldest man in Lumiere.
The oldest. The absolute oldest.
And that's just funny that they were able to kind of like work that into a way that's not just like a reference, but actually works within the world building that they've done here.
Yeah, that's quite impressive.
I thought that was great.
And we're going to talk about the number 33, I think, probably a little bit later. There's lots of symbolism there. Some of which was even present in Final Fantasy 16.
Oh, sure.
That has been brought up as well. And it's like, well, it's same symbolism. But we're going to talk about it later for specific reasons. But I need to go back to the very opening shot.
Yeah.
The very
the one
beginning
with, like,
of this game.
the Eiffel Tower kind of like.
Yeah. So it's really important that the first shot is that, right? Because that kind of grounds us a little bit. We're playing this fantasy game where these crazy things are possible and happen. And for the opening shot to be, because, in the original development for this game, it was not going to take place in Paris, or they hadn't even settled on exactly, but it was going to be mostly a fantasy setting. It wasn't going to be part of our reality, our world. But I like that they went the way that they did, because you see the Eiffel Tower, like one of the most recognizable buildings in the world. And it's like, whoa, we're in a place that I'm familiar with and that I'm identifying with what I consider to be the real world, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important that you make that connection.
I do too.
But it's bent over like almost 90 degrees. Mm-hmm. And did you notice that on the little cakes when they're having the party at the end?
Yeah,
that
the candle.
They were Eiffel Towers and the wick was on the end, but they were bent over.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's not good for a candle. It's gonna fall. But whatever. Their world has different rules, I guess. But you see the Eiffel Tower, but it's bent, and the whole world looks fractured. And immediately when you look at this, it's like, oh, whoa, something crazy happened here. It shouldn't be like that. This is a world that has undergone like an apocalypse. But they linger on these shots for a while. There's a couple shots where you kind of see in the background the paintress and the monolith, and the number 34, not 33, which is very intriguing. It's like, I bought Expedition 33 and I'm seeing a 34. That's weird. Like, what do I do with this? What do I make of this? But you then see these streamers, these red and white kind of banners, streamers going down. And if you look closely, there are people walking around in the square. And it's like, this looks post-apocalyptic is what it looks like.
Yep.
Yet the people I'm seeing aren't even running, right? They're just walking around, minding their business, and there are streamers up, right?
It's a celebration.
Because it's a celebration. You would think, oh, maybe the world got destroyed during a celebration and the streamers are still up. Oh, how tragic an image, And it's like, oh, wait, no, this is the world. This is what the world is. And there's something really kind of unnerving about that. Or when you play a game that is based on a real world, but that the place doesn't look at all like the way you expect it to, right? But the people are acting as though it's still normal. So your brain has already done a flip-flop, a back and forth once. And then it's like, okay, well, like, let's go on. Let's get to know this world. It's based on a grounded reality. The world is based on a grounded reality that for some reason isn't adhering properly to the rules and laws of reality that we know, like physics. Something is wrong, like very wrong, but let's see. And you wouldn't necessarily think that. If you just go into a world and there's floating islands, you'd just be like, oh, this is dope, because this is the world, I guess. But as soon as they throw the Eiffel Tower in there, it's like, it's just something's wrong. Something feels wrong about the fact that there's floating islands now. It just doesn't feel right. And the very next shot after the Eiffel Tower is the l'Arc de Triomphe, which is the Arc of Triumph. And it's based on something in Rome, actually, that was built around like 70 or 80 AD, which is also like the Arc of Triumph. It was built, it was erected after the destruction of Jerusalem, basically. And then the Romans were like, let's build this dope, like, monument in commemoration of that event. And so then the Arc of Triumph in France was basically built as after the revolution to be like, oh, we triumphed over, difficult things and whatnot. This is the beginning of what they call the beautiful epic, right? And the belle époque. I think that's how it's pronounced. I actually don't know exactly. But the beautiful period of time, which was after Napoleon, but before World War I. And there's like this 50, 60, 70 year time where France just was able to flourish and prosper in between, very destructive time periods. But you see the Arc of Triumph, and it's broken. It's split in half. And so whatever triumph they once were celebrating is something that has been defeated. Like it's the symbol of triumph is broken. So, they were happy about their world once. That's just not how it is anymore. So there's some pretty good symbolism to be read in there as well. And then we have the eclipse, man. And I maybe I need some help from you, or maybe somebody else watching. Is the world constantly under eclipse all the time? Because you see a moon sometimes.
It seems to me like, well, no, there definitely is like day and night cycle. Like they go,
so there's two
when you do the camps, but it seems like that particular like black hole looking thing that's behind the monolith is always there. Okay. And there's always some kind of chroma.
But even when they're on the boats, when the sun is higher in the air, it's still
right.
There's still an eclipse happening. Okay.
Right.
It's
not an eclipse in the sense that like we would typically expect to see one in our sky.
Yeah, that lasts for 4 minutes.
Yeah, where like the moon crosses in front of the sun. There is some other like kind of permanent like chroma thing happening there behind that.
So it's not a moon.
No, I don't think so.
It's just a thing that's blocking the light. There's wonderful symbolism to be had here, by the way. You've got the true light that can only seep around at the edges that is being blocked, And in this case, you're not even getting a reflection, which is typically the moon's symbolism, is that it reflects the light. The thing that actually produces light, the moon doesn't produce light. It just reflects the light that is being produced elsewhere. But what we have here is something blocking that, so we don't even really get that. You get the hint of light around the edges, but you never actually get the true light itself. And it almost seems like that's what this goal is. We're going to remove the thing that's blocking the true light. When you're trying to read symbolism, like sun and moon are some of the most important symbols.
Well, especially when
and
you
if
have
the sun is
a
blocked, that
named,
means something huge.
A character named Lune and a character named Ciel.
Ciel and Lumiere being the city. Yeah, it's almost like the light is not up in the sky. It's down on the ground with the people.
I don't have like the legitimate canonical answer to this yet because I didn't even think about it. But now I'm going to start looking in the game for the sun. Like, does the sun
start looking around
actually ever appear, or is it always kind of behind that eclipse structure there behind the monolith? But there's a couple of interesting symbolic sort of tie-ins that could go into like what an eclipse or like a black hole at the spot of the fracture could mean.
Well, ancient Egypt had this idea of the black sun, right? And a black sun and what that meant, right? And it's a lot of it is kind of just like reverse the symbolism of the sun, and you're getting the opposite kind of symbol there.
Right.
The sun is light and truth and warmth, and when you block it out, it is the opposite of those things.
Yeah.
So
I'll think about that a little more. I'll look into it a little more. I'll pay real close attention to it going forward. But I think we'll probably want to hold off on what symbolism of that eclipse behind the monolith could mean until we get a little further in the game.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
But, thinking back to some of the early game areas, like the flying waters or things like that, there's definitely like light streaming through.
Yeah, and it seems hard light.
So it's like you would think, oh, there's definitely a sun up there, but it might not be for reasons that we'll again explain later.
Exactly.
It might not always, the lighting might not always make perfect sense, and that makes sense for the game.
Right.
Is kind of what I'm teasing here. So we'll talk more about that later. But go ahead.
So also you mentioned that Gustav is throwing rocks, right?
Yeah.
The great symbolism here is just his absolute inability to even approach, like, doing any semblance of harm to this god that is just decimating their society. And it's very clear. Mael kind of teases him a little for it. It is interesting. He's choosing to use his flesh human hand as opposed to his mechanical hand initially. But he is what would you call it? He is trying to fight fate, but has nowhere near even close to the power or ability to do so. Yet he continues, right? It's almost like, what does he say to Mael? He's like, hobbies don't need to be useful. I don't need to, actually, I'm doing this. It's an exercise. It's a thing I'm doing for fun, right? But the deeper meaning is he's trying to fight fate, and nothing will ever make him stop trying. It doesn't matter if he is a million miles away. He's going to pick a rock and throw it, because this is Gustav's character. It's very important to understand about his character, actually, as Sophie says later on, you're the most stubborn man I know, right? He's like, I'm not giving up. Are you crazy? I'm going to I'll throw rocks if I have to. It doesn't matter. And it can be, it doesn't matter how long I do it or how far away it is. I'm still going to try, because trying's better than nothing. And so, anyway, says a lot about his character, and it's a really good, but the desire to fight fate, basically.
Yeah.
Because whatever's happening here is so far out of their control that a lot of people think these expeditions are ridiculous.
Waste of time.
And a total waste of time, waste of people, waste of everything, waste of resources. But he's just different, I guess. Instead of, accepting fate, he is very keen to completely fight against it. I also have to compliment the music at this point.
It's so good.
It's so good. It's so
goodness
good.
gracious, it's good.
And I can't believe it. Now, we'll talk about this more in our Dev History episode, but this musician, this is the first big project that he's ever worked on. And it's just amazing. It's just incredible.
Pretty sure it's been nominated for, best
Best
soundtrack.
game soundtrack. Good. I hope it
Among
wins.
many other awards the game's been nominated for, but yeah.
It's so good. It's so good, and it's all in French, which I love. I really like that. The Frenchness here, especially with Maëlle's outfit. Did you notice her outfit?
Yes.
The horizontal stripes.
The stripes.
Yeah.
And you can get those for other characters.
Later
it's like
on,
costumes you can unlock and
But
stuff.
it's interesting
With
to
the
see
red
her
hat.
wearing that. Yes.
Yeah.
Or she has the scarf.
The scarf.
And then the suspenders.
The glasses.
Like black suspenders. Yeah, glasses. But she's dressed very much the part in a French manner. Everyone here is wearing clothes that really fit France, right? At least traditional, French clothing in one way or another. And so I thought that was super cool. I love, as much as I love the Japaneseness of Japanese games made there, sometimes I wonder how much I would really love the culture really pouring through the seams in other games that I play from other cultures. We really, only a few countries are really represented in the games that I play, right? Like, I guess Canada, because Ubisoft and Eidos and a few of those.
Sure.
And then America, Japan. I haven't really played many games from many other countries. CD Projekt Red is Poland, I guess.
Yeah.
So there's something going on there with Andrzej Sapkowski and stuff. But for the most part, it's just a few countries. And I don't know that I've ever played a game from France. I don't think I have.
I was trying to think of that too. The
like
other day
maybe
as well.
I have. I probably have. Maybe back in the day.
There probably
but I
are
don't think so.
a lot of European studios that have been involved in games I've played, but this one definitely seems to lean into the French influences and the French culture
Heavily.
really being like a big part of the visual aesthetic and the way the story is written, even, and like the type of story they want to tell. It's very French.
It's very
all
French.
around.
Yeah.
Very French cinema almost.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. Yes. There's like
Yeah, while we play a lot of Japanese role-playing games for this channel, for the analysis we do, and while the studio who made this game was inspired by that kind of game, they basically wanted to make one of those types of games in form and function, but just replace the kind of like
culture,
Japanese cultural influence with the French cultural influence,
which
I think is a very interesting blend.
It is, and
kind of fresh.
It was very fresh, and that's, I guess, part of my point. Like every country that makes games should do this. Like it'll happen no matter what, even if they don't want to do it. You write about what you know. The artists will, if you're from a certain culture, it will just find its way into your work somehow, because that's just the background of the people working on it. But this game, I think, was very deliberate in trying to make it really seem purposefully French in a way that I just loved. And I've never really thought much about that other than, I love it when the Japanese games are more Japanese, but like, holy cow, every French game should be super French now. Like, this is just really cool. I feel like I'm able to explore different cultures instead of just Japan in a way that is, unique. This might be I don't know if I've ever played a game from France, but I don't know that like RPG would be the genre that a French game would be known for, or a French studio would be known for.
Yeah, it's just not what you typically would expect. And we have Undercode here who's saying that Alan Wake 2 has a lot of heavy Finnish culture. That
yes,
studio,
that's right. And that shown
Sam
through.
Lake is Finnish, and
so
that studio,
Barbara Yeager, that was really good.
So there was a little bit of that in
and
Alan
I loved
Wake,
it.
which we covered.
I loved it.
Yeah,
every time I love it. So apparently Beyond Good and Evil and maybe Prince of Persia.
Well, those are all Ubisoft.
Oh,
games,
that's Montreal. So that's French
Canadian,
Canada, but it's different.
Yeah,
it's different, but still cool. My dad lived in Montreal for a long time, so I've always loved that part of Canada as well. A Plague Tale: Innocence. Don't know it.
Yeah. Okay.
But there's tons of particles and flowers,
Lots
literally
of
everywhere.
Particles.
Music's wonderful, and
of
the game made me want to learn French again, which is wonderful. Speaking of, the name Sophie means wisdom.
This was a huge part of our Xenogears analysis. Sophia.
Yes, exactly. And pay attention to what she says, given that her name means wisdom.
Yeah.
Okay, so then moving on, Gustav, his name means it's a Norse name, and it means the like staff of the Goths, basically. But here I have the support of the Geats. I believe it's pronounced the Yeats sometimes, which is a wonderful name. The Yeats.
Yeah.
But that's Beowulf and all of that stuff, the Yeats. It's basically a part of like southern Sweden that we would call Götaland now, but the staff of that land, basically. And that's Gustav. So he's like, that's his kind of symbolism. But, and then since we're just on this in general, and this is mentioned later in the game, but Maëlle means chief or something along those lines as well, in the form of something like a maelstrom. Strum actually is the Germanic, it means stream. So a maelstrom is like a whirlpool, like a master stream, like this vortex that you can't escape. But yeah, the name Mael means chief. So those are what the names mean, generally speaking. They're not all French, which I found interesting. Some of the names are very much French, but a lot of their names kind of come from different places.
Gustave was named after Gustave Eiffel, the engineer who built the Eiffel Tower, which I think is built right into Gustave's sort of like engineering. That's like what he does in the game, right? He works on technology with Lune, like they built the Lumina converter together. We'll talk about that more in a minute. So, his name is a direct reference to that real historical figure. So.
That's cool. I like that. And then, his arm too.
His arm is mechanical. Right?
It is.
So he's like an engineer.
But at some point, I think he lets kind of the children, his underlings, kind of like decorate it or do stuff to his arm in memory of them. I thought that was really cool. The way that the kids really look up to him, I found just very charming. So then, of course, Lumiere. This is the city of light. That's what Lumiere means. It means light. So this, if this is the light, and the game is called Clair Obscur, which we haven't talked about yet, means clear obscure. It's a take of the Italian art style chiaroscuro, which is the same thing, clear obscure. It means light and dark, basically what it means. And the art of chiaroscuro is like really interesting, but it's basically like candlelit stuff. There was a movie made by who's the guy that did 2001: A Space Odyssey? Kubrick, Stanley Kubrick. Yeah. He made a movie like just a few years after that was filmed all by candlelight. He didn't have like film lights, and they used one of the lenses from the moon landing for it because it has an aperture that opens up to like 0.7 or something like that, like way wide open, which sounds funny, sounds impossible in the mind, but somehow they can do it. And so he was able to light the whole thing just with candlelight, and that gave this chiaroscuro kind of look. It's sort of like film noirish, I guess. A lot of black and white films had this. I'm told it's pronounced chiaroscuro. Apologies. But it's a really cool interplay between light and dark and like heavy shadows, a heavy emphasis on the shadows. So that's what that means. And then, of course, the city Lumiere. Lumiere is the city of light. So then the idea is, then that continent over there is the land of darkness. That would be kind of the way that people would think about it, right?
Yeah.
And so, this is really fun. Mael, she deepens the mystery a lot because she keeps saying things like, I don't really feel like I belong here, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And as we're going along with her, she's like, why people celebrate the Gommage is a mystery to me, but oh well. Now, we don't even know what the Gommage is yet. This is the beginning of the game. We haven't seen the scene at the harbor yet. So we're just getting this weird, eerie feeling, the joke about the flower, okay, like what's going on here? This might be your last time seeing this woman who you've, used to know a long time ago. And like, what do I say? What do I say to her? Like, how do I talk to her again? She's leaving forever. Is she going to have room for my flower? That's one of the jokes Mael tells that could cut Gustave, is she's just like, she probably has 1 billion flowers. She probably won't even have room for your flower anymore. And Gustave's like, I know, whatever. It doesn't matter. And of course she does. She's got a whole wreath full of flowers, but he's got this one flower that he's going to go give to her. But Mael is like, why do people even celebrate this? Like, this doesn't really make sense to me, but whatever. She doesn't seem like she belongs in the group. And of course she was born an orphan, or not born an orphan. Well, maybe she was orphaned. I don't actually know.
At a young age.
There you go. We'll put it that way, which is probably true of almost every young person here.
At this point, yes.
Yeah. So I had my first kid, or my wife had our first kid when I was 30.
Yeah.
And 33 meant my kid was 3, or 2, I guess, because they have to, so 2 years old. And that's when I would have turned 33. So it's like, if people had kids at normal times, then they're all orphans by the time they're at least like 10 or so at this stage.
Yeah, I think this is an important point to bring up, is that there's a strong, maybe sort of sub-theme going on here, at least in the prologue, of like the difficult choice here of being a parent, or like what the role of a parent is in this world.
Right.
When anyone who is currently alive in this world only really has the chance of having a pretty young kid, maybe at most a teenager at this point. And where so many children have been orphaned that you have many people filling in the role of foster parents.
Tons.
Like tons. Gustav has apprentices, and he and his sister Emma are the guardians of Mael, who seems to be, late stage teenager, maybe 17, 18 years
16, I think.
16, I think you're right. Somewhere around there. So, there's this real emphasis through many conversations you have on your way towards the harbor in the beginning on these topics. One comes between Sophie and I believe the woman's name is Elise or Eloy.
Yes.
Something like that. Yeah. Let me get the right name here. Yeah, I think it's Eloy, or I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce it in French.
Eloy.
Sorry,
Eloy.
that's a different person. So Marie is the first lady, and she has a young child.
Oh, yeah.
Marie is a mother, and she has her little girl with her. And Sophie and Marie begin to get into an argument about whether Sophie made the right choice not to have children.
Right.
This was the source of Sophie's disagreement with Gustav, where they ended up breaking up. Gustav
wants kids,
wanted to have a child. Yeah. She thought it was cruel and immoral to bring a child into a world like this one.
I read so much. When Gustav first meets with Sophie, I took down that some pretty important lines from that. Because Sophie then says to him, hey, I never faulted you for wanting to believe. I understand, just in a different world, right? Is what she said, but it's put in quotes as though that's what he said. When he first shows up, he says, he can't see, it's hard to even read it because it's like not full sentences. But he basically says, hey, I just thought that maybe like in another path, another future, that maybe we could ... And then it just gets awkward and she's like trying to finish his sentence for him because he's incapable of doing so. But she quotes him by saying, in another world, right? And Gustav then answers her by saying, another path. He didn't say another world. He said another path, another future. Gustav's ideas are grounded in this world. He's saying, no, the future of this world. If we had a different path or if the future was different, then this world could be good. And Sophie is saying another world, that this world, basically she's like, this world can't be redeemed. This world doesn't have a future. And she has, you can look at this two ways. She's either given up hope or she has accepted fate. There's two ways of looking at it, and both ways are right. They're both correct, but one of them, and either one could be a critique as well, depending on which one is technically real or not. But you don't know, right? It's just, is the future redeemable? I don't know. I'm just going to try. If it is, then you're wrong, but if it's not, then you're right. And that's kind of one of the fundamental disagreements that they had, is that Gustav really is a firm believer that this world can be better and that he fights for change, as they mentioned. And she does not believe it at all. Yeah. She doesn't think that there's any hope for this world.
Yeah, that's possibly one of the most fascinating and, to me, the most intriguing elements of the core of what Expedition 33 is about. You have these two very different perspectives on what you just said. And I kind of hinted at it with the determinism versus agency thing going on here. Yeah. Where you have some people who I believe are trying to accept the reality of the situation as a means of being at peace. Right. The people who feel the need to fight that and change it see the people who are choosing acceptance as cowards or giving up. And the people who see those who want to fight, they see as
futile,
fool's errand, or like wanting to run and like go on some adrenaline-fueled hero escapist fantasy, as a means of like avoiding the truth,
right? And put themselves in a place where they can't help Lumiere anymore. Right. For the last year of everyone's life, not everyone who chooses to go, they're not forced or anything. For the last year of the people who leave, and this is brought up by Gustav's sister. You could be here. You could actually help people and make a difference instead of running off to try and play hero and then die like everyone else before you. Yeah. Right. And so there is they both see each other almost like fundamentally in irreconcilable ways. Yes. That there's no middle ground here. Yeah. There isn't a what's the word? What's the word when you find a middle ground? There's a word.
Compromise.
Compromise.
Yeah.
There is no compromise. You can't compromise this. There is no halfway point. It is like the world has been fractured and it is forced into one side or the other, and you cannot have a foot in both camps. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
You can't have hope and not have hope at the same time. Like you just can't. You could maybe say you have hope, but inside you're conflicted. Like I understand that. But the fact is, you can't be both at the same time.
Yeah, it's really fascinating, and they explore that idea both from the perspectives of children and parents. And what I find very fascinating about that is this game is targeted, I would say, at players like the developers who are in their 30s, who played the games we played growing up and were inspired by them. And so in a lot of ways, the gameplay is structured in a way that kind of calls back to conventions and design philosophy from the PlayStation 1 era of RPGs of this kind.
Which is so charming.
And so like they're kind of like trying to talk to those people who grew up with those games who are now parents.
Yeah.
So if you have a child and you're playing this game during this gamage scene, you have a very different sort of outlook on it than the teenager you were back when you were playing those games, who is kind of like the Mael stand-in. Yeah. So the game can reach both today's teenagers and yesterday's teenagers who are now parents.
And tomorrow's teenagers.
who both love this type of game.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Makes sense. That's quite an accomplishment.
And so like while those games were aimed at the teenagers and young kids, this is kind of hitting both in a way that's really interesting. But the second conversation along these lines that touches on that sort of parenthood kind of sub-theme going on here is Eloise, who is upset that her father wasted his final year on an expedition.
Yeah, that's right.
She's standing next to kind of a little stage that's been set up where the expeditioners are recruiting for future years, right? Yeah. Volunteers to come and go on next year's expedition. Right. And it's kind of signing them up and like starting their training so that they can go out next time. And so she's standing next to that booth and she's, complaining about how her father wasted his final year. They could have spent that time together. And she's sort of lamenting that. And then Sophie says, well, let Gustav show you, what he can do. You then get like a little tutorial kind of battle where you can show your overdrive skill. Yeah. But the point of that is to show the expeditioners, the way they see this is that those who went before lay the ground for those who come after.
That each subsequent expedition is better and better. Right.
They're getting further. They're getting further every time.
That's the story that they tell.
Yes.
That's the story they tell. But, and you get this with, I forget her name, Emma, Gustav's sister.
Emma.
I think Emma. The first expedition was actually the most successful one. That if you're going to be objective about it in terms of how far they got, they don't know. No one knows. Once these people leave the shore, no one knows what happened to them, except for the fact that the first expedition had survivors that came back, and they did make it to the Paintress. They just, we can't get through. We need such and such. But there were survivors from that expedition, none of the others. So if you're going to be scientific about it and like measuring everything, they're not getting better by any objective metric. They're each one has not achieved as much as the first one did. And now they've done it 67 times as that little quiz that guy gives you, which is the closest this game gets to as you know dialogue, is that hilarious quiz.
Which is, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek. It's done in a way that's self-aware and funny. But
but the thing is, and I guess if you haven't talked to everybody, you may not know the answers. And so when Gustav gets it wrong, then it feels really funny.
Yeah.
In a way, the hope is, the story that they tell themselves is that each one has a higher chance of succeeding. Yeah. But the measurables don't always bear that out.
Yeah. But the purpose of all of these scenes, again, is building that dichotomy you're talking about.
Yeah.
You either fall into the camp of people who believe there is a hope to change things and make a better future for this world, or you accept it for what it is and kind of come to peace with it.
Right.
Or
and place your hopes in another world.
Or you are the guy in the trash can. I don't know if you found him.
Oh, I don't think so.
There's one of the trash cans, so I had help.
I may have been my first playthrough.
I had help from the chat on this.
Did you?
If you examine trash cans around, most of them will say it's just a normal trash can or something like that. There's one of them where if you continue talking to it over and over and over again, there's a guy in there that's like, hey man, like, leave me alone. I'm hiding here. If the patroness doesn't know, then she like won't have a reason to gommage me. I've been hiding here for 6 months.
Oh my gosh. So he's
he's hiding. But yeah,
I guess you don't get to go back there. That's
you don't really like return to Lumiere.
That's right. That's right.
But he's hiding in the trash can, hoping he's been in there for 6 months, hoping he would go unnoticed and that the paintress will just forget to gommage him.
Maybe,
so unless you're that
find
guy
the middle ground?
who's just hiding from the truth,
do nothing, hide in the darkness.
You're either a person who falls into we stay here, we do the best we can with what we have, we accept our death when it comes and come to peace with it, or we're going to go out there and try to change it.
Yeah.
And there is, I think, as Beardmo has said here, there's folly in both and there's truth in both perspectives.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But like you said, and I think that's really important, you don't get to sit in the middle. Like you're kind of forced into the way that this world is structured, the fact that the paintress is real, the fact that's happening. You choose one side or the other, and which side you're on will put you at odds with other people there. They'll think it's definitely the wrong thing you're doing.
Which is so interesting. Yeah. This game did such a good job of that.
Yeah,
there's multiple points in this game where that same thing can be said, where it's like there isn't like a compromise point here. And it's just maybe we'll get to it later on, but there's a point at the beginning of Act 1, I don't think we'll quite get there, where that same thing happens, where it's like the protocol says one thing, but then the situation dictates another, and like there's no compromise. There's no middle ground here. You have to just kind of pick one and then stick to it. And that's rough, especially for somebody who's like trying to like think it out and like, oh, which one's the best one? Like, dude, you're dealing with the elements of fate. Like, this is all so much outside of your hands. Just pick one.
Yeah.
Just pick one.
Walk me to the harbor?
Yes.
And then the game does something very interesting, which shocked me at first. You play as Sophie when you're walking to the harbor. And you can switch between Gustav and Sophie. And I think the reason, because you've gotten used to playing as Gustav, people would probably just want to stay playing as Gustav. But the reason that they have you play as Sophie is to kind of introduce that mechanic of here's how you switch between characters that are in your party. You can play as any of the characters that are that are in your party. And I thought that was really clever and really cool. But you can just have her walk down, and the characters kind of maybe act a little different depending on who you are when you first talk to them.
Yeah, because there are certain characters that Sophie will speak to, like the guy who is trying to write the newspaper headline. He's trying to get inspiration. Like she talks to him. She talks to, was it Marie, who she'd had disagreements about having kids with. They'd fought about that before. He talks to some of the other expeditioners that are recruiting people, right? She speaks to Eloise. So they each kind of like lead the dialogue for different characters that you come across throughout this sort of walk towards the harbor. But
it's
one
really
thing
cool. It's a slow walk.
Before we move on from the conversation with Sophie and Gustav, this is so key. This conversation right here is so key. It is so critical to the emotional weight of the gamage.
Yeah.
The only reason it works is because it's relying on the fact that you have had an experience like this, that you have had someone that you loved dearly that didn't work out, that maybe in life, I don't know if anyone watching this, you've met up with an ex before, years after breaking up.
I have actually.
It is so perfectly captured here what that feels like.
Yeah.
Because as much as you've moved on with your life and maybe you're with someone else now, like, and as much as it's like maybe taboo to admit, like those feelings for that other person don't go away.
Right.
Right? Like there was a reason it didn't work. There was a reason you broke up. Maybe the relationship you're in now is much healthier and it's better. But that unique sort of partnership, relationship, deep bond you had with that person is unique. It's not like any other that you have with another person. And when you come across them again and those feelings resurface, man, that is an absolutely wild, awkward, difficult thing to sort of like wrestle with in the moment. And this is happening between both of them. They start talking over each other. They're stumbling. They're a little bit awkward. But ultimately, like, those feelings are still there.
Yeah.
And they're still very much deeply bonded, and they still very much love each other. And she chooses to spend her last moments with him. And the game relies on the fact that you understand that feeling in order for you to feel the devastation of watching that person turn to ash in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
And how awful and cruel that is, that the paintress does this over and over and over again to lovers, to parents and children, to anyone, best friends, all these bonds broken, arbitrarily erased for no reason.
Right.
And that serves as, and I love that last shot, as she's already gamaged and he just turns and sort of sinks and just looks at the paintress, and the shot ends on the paintress. Yeah. That's what we're playing the game for. That's what we're fighting. That's what must be brought to an end.
That was really good.
It's so effective, but it only works because of this conversation between Sophie and Gustav. They so naturally, so beautifully, so seamlessly capture that feeling of reuniting with someone you care about, even if it was a while ago, because we don't know Sophie. We, the audience, don't know Sophie. We're not grieving Sophie at the moment of Gamage.
Good point.
We're grieving the person we know who we can relate to Gustav about.
Yeah, that's
what would
right.
happen if that person I know died like that in front of me, so arbitrarily, so needlessly? That would infuriate you. It would devastate you, and it would give you every motivation you need to go fight a god to try to make it end. It's so perfect. Yeah. And so this little scene right here is like the key to
brilliant.
making the whole prologue work, in my opinion. It's fantastic.
And work it does. You know, that's funny. I'm remembering actually the moment that this was totally just happenstance, but that I ran into an ex of mine, and within maybe 5 minutes of like, hey, good to see you. What are you up to nowadays? Like, how's your family? All that stuff. Within about 5 minutes, something strikes a nerve where it's like, oh yeah, that's why we broke up.
Yep.
And it's usually like, and I remember this particular girl I was talking to, within maybe 10 minutes, we had a very brief argument that just reminded me of like, oh yeah, all right,
That's the reason.
That's why.
Yeah.
And I feel like Gustav and Sophie had that brief moment as well after the, oh, good to see you, it's been a while, you look great, here's a flower. Also, I still feel the way I feel. Yes, I'm still stubborn too. Okay, we're both still stubborn. All right, let's go to the harbor. But it's endearing, right? It's a this is who I am, you know?
Yeah.
And our lives didn't fit perfectly together. And no, I haven't changed much in these last 4 years. It's only been like 4 years, right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm still the same person. In some ways, that's frustrating because, oh, you don't agree with me now. But in some ways, it's endearing. It's like, no, you're still the same person that I loved, right?
Yeah.
And you know, you haven't like changed radically, you know, since those times. And even if they have changed, you know, they'd still be the same person. But it's interesting. You get those moments, right, where it's like, you can almost glimpse how the relationship went those 4 years ago.
Right.
Mael, of course, said, I was always rooting for you guys. I wish you didn't break up. And Mael, because I always wondered too, like, what was it, Sophie and Gustav who decided to adopt Mael? But it was Emma and Gustav, right?
Yes.
Not Sophie.
Yes.
So Sophie and Mael didn't ever have that type of relationship.
Type of guardian bond, yeah.
It was more with Emma and Gustav.
Yeah.
And Emma is like the, I guess, sort of mayor. She's like the head of the council of the city or something like that.
She's on some kind of leadership council.
Yeah. So, but I guess Gustav writes her speeches for her.
Yeah.
Which I thought
because
was pretty
she
funny.
doesn't believe any of the words she's saying.
She doesn't, because she's a politician.
Because she's on the opposite side of this philosophical question from him. He believes in going out and having hope. She's supposed to arrive as the leader to give the expeditions that hope. Her but she thinks it's a waste of time.
She thinks it's a waste of time, but it's necessary. We need people to go on the expeditions, but not useful people. If there's a way that we could send the low dregs of society out, that would be great, because then the politicians can get rid of those people, but keep the useful people. It's like there's sort of something maybe like slightly underhanded happening here with all of that. But as far as I can tell, the expedition is entirely voluntary.
Yes.
And Maëlle is going, and Emma is super against it. I would guess Sophie would be too. Even Gustav is against it, but Maëlle's like, anyone can sign up. I signed up. Like what? Like, but it's like, no, anyone else. Like, this isn't for young people. Yeah, but there was no rule, I guess. So she signed up.
Rob says a bloodless guillotine.
Yes, no, that is a line. That's a line from. That's what's her name? That's what Emma says.
Yeah.
She says it's a bloodless guillotine. Well, she doesn't see what happens on the beach. It's not
It's
as
definitely not
bloodless
bloodless.
as she imagines. But it's true. It is definitely guillotine. You're being fed through the meat grinders, so to speak. I also have this too. Sophie says that she's fine with the fate that has been set before her. Now we're seeing a different side of Sophie. Not to fight, to change her fate, is to accept her own path, but it's a relinquishing of control of forces outside of her own control. Whereas Gustav refuses to do that, but also simply accepts a different fate that was also decided long before he was even born, meaning the expeditions, right? So they've both kind of resigned themselves to fate, but a different type of fate. Both situations are out of their control, basically, right? Because Gustav has just accepted the mantle of the expeditions that were started 67 years ago by people before he was even born, and he's just kind of grown up with that, and he's entered right into it, whereas she is accepting, fate in her own different way.
Right.
But Sophie seems very serene and calm up until the end, of course, whereas Gustav is very tense and upset, visibly upset.
That was one of the hardest moments, was Sophie is seemingly all throughout this kind of in a moment of acceptance.
Yeah.
Not like acceptance in the sense like, oh, I'm ready to die, I can't wait for this. But in the sense
Not
that
like excitement. Yeah.
it's not excitement,
Yeah.
but it's an acceptance. There seems to be a sense of peace in it.
Although there is a line she says of like whether it's because I've accepted my fate or because I'm afraid, or something like that. And she's like, I don't know which.
But what's so heart-wrenching about it is that when the gamage actually happens, and like people are starting to, wither away, you see her face and just the absolute terror in it.
She's like, what's going to happen?
The tears like streaming, and she turns to him, and it's such a perfect capture again of that feeling. And not necessarily for death here, but of anything that you have been afraid of in your life, but you know it's coming, and you like think you have time to prepare or like whatever, but it's just something that's kind of like it's in the future. I'm not dwelling on it, and then the moment comes, and it hits you, and you're just not ready for it.
Yeah,
that's what happens to her. And he tries to be like, I'm here, and she's just, it's a horrible death. Like, it's a really, really torturous, cruel, horrible death. Yeah. And it just like rips your heart right out. And Gustav, like, just, as he sinks there, it's just so
nothing you can
perfectly executed. It's
very
unbelievable.
Good.
So,
it's wild. But before being executed as well, Sophie says something that Gustav responds, only you would be so empathetic as to say that at a time like this.
That.
Wasn't this a good line? I got to hear.
Yeah,
she
go ahead.
says she sometimes feels sorry for the paintress, and she even wonders if the paintress is just stuck in the same cycle as everyone else, trapped in this world. And Gustav, because she's almost talking to herself in that moment. She's not really talking to anyone, but she's about to die, and she's just kind of saying her thoughts of like, what is life about? Like, often people at the end of their life will have lucid thoughts in terms of that, and it's like, but they're not really talking to anyone. They're just kind of saying their thoughts out loud. And that's what she says. And Gustav says, only you could be empathetic towards her at a time like this, right? Someone like that. And then she responds with, it's one of the few choices I have left.
I loved that line.
To choose to be empathetic at the very end of her life. She isn't in control of anything except for who she chooses to love or who she chooses to hate.
Yeah.
And in that moment, she just kind of decides to maybe not hate the fate that is forcing this cruelty upon her. And that she's exercising her agency in that way, in such an interesting way.
Yes, and
that was such a deep moment.
This ties into the agency determinism theme here, which is, it might seem at first like the choice for agency is to go out and fight fate.
Right.
But it's not.
Yeah.
That's not the only way to take your agency.
Yeah.
She takes her agency through showing compassion and empathy towards the paintress. She notices not the cruelty not the total arbitrary, needless suffering that the paintress inflicts,
Right.
but rather that the paintress looks sad. You're all talking about the paintress as this horrible goddess that must be stopped and we must kill her at any
Right.
length and she's horrible. I'm seeing something that maybe, and I think this is a seed that's being planted, maybe we don't know.
Right.
Like what's really going on there, right? We don't understand why she's doing what she's doing.
It's interesting to note that the pose that the paintress is in, because when you look out there, you can't really, I couldn't see a paintress. I was like, I don't see what everyone else is saying they see until the moment when the gommage happens and then the paintress stands up and you realize she was crouched with her arms on her knees
like hugging
and
her
her
knees.
head down at her knees and her hair like hanging down to the ground basically. And that's how she spends like the whole year, it seems, that she is always in that pose. And it's like, that's just interesting to note. This isn't somebody who is staring at them and sneering. This is, somebody who is in a very
Someone who's
unusual position.
in a lot of pain.
Seemingly, yeah, that seems to be the case. Yeah.
Somebody who is themselves tortured. Someone who is themselves totally forlorn, depressed, without hope.
Right.
Something like that, which is very, very interesting. And she sees that. She chooses to see that. And that's her taking her agency back. I thought that was a very important point.
Yeah. You could say the only way of taking back agency is to go and fight your fate, right? That's the only way to do it. But you bringing up that there's another way is similar to when Sophie brings up to Gustave, there are other ways of leaving a legacy, which is obviously a continuation of an argument that they had in the past about children, because Gustave wants kids. And then Gustave, he kind of wears the Expedition 33 patch and all that stuff. And he says, you're the one who taught me that there's other ways to leave behind a legacy.
Yeah.
And she says, this is your legacy, because she gets him the coat and I think it was mostly just the coat, but she kind of sewed everything in and tied the ribbon on and all that stuff.
Right.
And she goes, this is your legacy. And it's almost a different way of thinking about it. You think the only way to leave a legacy is to have children. And she's saying, no, there are other ways to leave a legacy. And it's a continuation of their argument that they had before. Yeah. But, just like with agency, there's
more than one way.
More than one way to do lots of things, lots of things.
Yeah.
And Gustave, is... didn't get the chance to have children the way he wanted to, but that does not mean that he's not leaving behind any kind of legacy.
Yeah. Any more notes? I wanted to talk a little bit about I don't know if you saw the paintress worshiper guy. There's a guy who's like, this is a punishment because we dared to oppose the paintress, oppose the goddess. So there's like this whole sort of small religious sect of paintress worshipers.
Well, that comes into play later on as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I do remember maybe seeing that in my first playthrough.
I thought it was a nice piece of world building. Where,
talk about accepting your fate.
Yeah.
Like, there's an aspect of like, this is reality, right? Guys, like, live in the real world. We live in a world where that paintress is in control. And you can fight against reality and nature all you want, but it's only a step beyond accepting fate to being like, look, like, this is the world, like, let's seek to understand it, or maybe there's a higher purpose or something like that. It's not that much further on than where Sophie already had kind of come to herself.
Yeah, and it just shows that there are so many different answers that this society is coming up with, like for how they should handle this. Am I going to run and hide from it, and hopefully I'll just get overlooked? Am I going to go fight directly the goddess who is inflicting the suffering? Am I going to live my life the best that I can here and spend every last moment I have with the people I love?
Right.
Am I going to appeal to and worship the goddess and hope that my loyalty and appeals will save me?
There you go. It's appeasement. This is how pagan sacrifices used to work. It's less worshiping the pagan god, and it's more appeasement and a hope for a favor, right? You're trying to curry favor with the god the gods that rule over your fate.
Yeah.
And this is how all of the older pagan religions worked. So it's almost like, hey guys, like let's try everything. Like there's more options. Like, have you tried sacrificing a goat to the goddess? Have you tried it? What we're doing isn't working. Nothing anyone's doing is working. Like, let's try this way. Let's try that way. Let's try this way. And yeah, I like that too. I think that's fun.
Yeah. Any more? I wrote here, the music during the Gamage scene is spectacular. It's so, I mean, the whole thing, visual, sound, music, just all comes together in ways. It just hits you so hard.
Yeah, it's really powerful.
So incredibly well executed.
Yeah. And it's beautiful, which is the most striking
I know,
part.
it's beautiful, and you get this total exploration of the duality of emotion here.
Yeah.
And I think that is reflected in the eclipse that's behind the monologue.
I think so, yeah.
The game is called Clair Obscur.
Yeah.
With the clear and the obscure. So, the opposite ends. We've talked a lot on our podcast in the past about two ends of the spectrum being the same thing experienced in different degrees.
In different degrees, yeah.
Being a principle that comes from the Kybalion. But, you have this beautiful, beautiful imagery in it all, and they turn into little flower petals.
Flowers, yeah.
Very beautiful image, but it's this horrible, horrific, tragic, terrifying thing. Both things reflected in the same moment. Yeah. And you're getting that in the philosophy being explored, you're getting that in the visual symbolism, you're getting that in the emotional punch of everything that's coming through. They're really capturing what... I think a lot of people might have heard the title Clair Obscur, Expedition 33, and thought, oh, this is part of that Japanese RPG naming convention where they just throw a lot of cool words together. That
it did kind of feel that way.
But no, it's actually very intentional,
and
it's very apparent in everything they're doing here, execution-wise. Really, really well done.
Yeah.
So,
and when the sun sets, it casts a red glow on everything. And then we enter into basically like a black and white moment when it starts, which was very interesting too. You'll notice throughout the game that happens in specific times, basically. And then, of course, the sun is down and it's twilight, and that's when everything kind of happens.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to note that it's the colors red and white. Red and white. Yeah. The symbolism of those colors is something we're going to jump into later. But then the number...
Rob is bringing up here, don't forget the life enjoyers. Did you meet the life enjoyers? This is kind of a hard secret thing. Yeah. I wouldn't have found it either without the chat while I was...
oh, really?
While I was playing or while I was streaming. But there's a building you can go to. You don't go inside of it, but you interact with the door, and you'll hear people making love inside.
Yes, I did. I did see some of those. Yeah, yeah.
So, and
like
Sophie
said
something. Yeah, like they choose to enjoy their final moments, in a different way.
Or they celebrate the Gamage in their own way.
In their own way. Right? They spend their last moments, together in that way. But I think I didn't confirm the exact number of times you do this, but it was enough times where I was very suspicious that it's 33 times. That if you interact with these life enjoyers 33 times, they'll be like, okay, like it was kind of like, kinky at first or whatever to know that you were like, listen, hey man, that's weird. Like, you freaking go away or go do it yourselves or something. Get out of here.
So that happens?
Yeah. If you interact with it 33 times and listen to it over and over and over, they'll eventually be like,
that's funny.
Get out of here. Stop it. Like, we know you're listening. So that's kind of funny. Okay, so then we go to the party, or not the party, it's whatever you call it. It's kind of like an after party, but the expeditioners have like some tables set up, and they're sort of they're celebrating the night before they leave on their expedition.
Yeah, and so you go and get to meet all the expeditioners, which, unlike meeting Sophie, you don't care so much when these people are not around anymore. But you have to go and meet them, and there's a whole bunch of people a part of the expedition. There's like 7 or 8 people other than the Luna and Ciel and Mael
and Gustav
that are coming. Yeah, so you just go. Group, yeah. I mean, everyone's inviting you, trying to get you to party, to take some drinks, to have fun. And Gustav is just like, look, I just, you guys go on without me. I don't really care. I'll be here in the morning. I'm excited to go off with you, but right now it's not the time. I don't feel like it. And then the last person is Mael. And here's the thing that I didn't know the first time I played the game. Those tokens that you get from some people, you use them to buy things in Lumiere.
Yes.
I didn't, you don't know. Like, I didn't know, is there stuff on the, in the other side of the sea? Use them while you're there.
There's
Don't
3
save
items
them
you can get.
for later. Yeah, there's a, there's Picto stuff.
There's a strange, I think you call it a weird Picto or strange Picto that you don't know how it works. Pictos are like
Materia.
the magic spells are like materia from Final Fantasy. You equip them and they give you specific kind of like abilities, like passive abilities, things like that. I guess it's not exactly
it's
like
not
materia
always magic. Sometimes
in the
it's
sense that it doesn't give you because there's a whole different skill tree that gives you like battle abilities.
That's true.
They're more like passive abilities, like what would
attack twice or
like the equipment of Final Fantasy IX, right? Where like you put on that equipment and there's like certain attributes or like passive skills you get from that you can then equip on your character after you've learned the ability after you've done enough battles, kind of thing.
And some of them are like you can mark characters, right?
Yes.
So where the next time they get hit, it does more damage. Yeah, that's less materia, and that's more just kind of
or like there's one that it gives you
poison
like
or fire.
A certain percentage chance of inflicting burn on an enemy or something.
Those are
like
useful for the guns.
Yeah, for your long ranged attack.
Yeah.
But here's where we can talk a little bit about the Lumina converter. So the advantage or the new technology that Gustav and Lune have developed together for this particular expedition is this Lumina converter, which gives them an ability. In the past, you'd have to you only have like 3 slots for Pictos.
Yeah.
So you only really had the ability to have 3 of those passive abilities at a time. And you have to have the Picto equipped in order to wield that have that specific like passive skill.
That's right, yeah.
But because of the Lumina converter, it allows them, even after they've equipped the Picto and learned it, even when they take the Picto off, they can retain that passive skill. And as you go throughout the game, you earn more Lumina points, which gives you more space to equip more and more and more of those passive skills. So essentially, you can stack many skills from Pictos onto your character
as you level
the stronger they get in the game, which makes them more powerful than previous expeditioners. And so this Lumina converter was like a really big part. They didn't know if it was going to work or not. And so like they're taking it with them, and it's like, if this thing works, then like, okay, we're going to be able to potentially be much stronger individual warriors than any of the previous expeditioners before. So that's what the Lumina converter is. So you can talk to Luna a little bit about that. Lune, I should say. She talks about how she has essentially convinced like the captain of the expedition where they should land. Her idea was, we know where Expedition 0, the first expedition that ever went out, we know where they landed, and we also know that they got a lot farther than anyone else.
Yeah, they're the most successful.
Why don't we just follow their path? Why don't we just land where they landed and like take the path that they took?
Right.
So that's kind of like their plan, is they're going to try and follow in the footsteps of Expedition 0. And I'm trying to think of like what other conversations were good here. I think I had one with, her name was Lucy, and she was originally a volunteer with this expedition, but she quit. So like along the way, at some point, she decided she didn't want to go anymore. And so she left the team. And so she and Gustav are having a conversation, and she says, maybe contentment is the highest form of happiness. Really, really interesting if you chew on that in the context of like finding purpose or trying to take agency back in this world of total determinism, it seems. And Gustav says something along the lines of, oh, she just took away, meaning the paintress took away your ability to dream. Like you're giving up is essentially what he's saying. That's what people who don't want to stay or who want to go on the expedition think about those who stay behind. You've given up. You're too afraid.
It's because it's like we're reaching for higher possibilities here, and you're saying that you're just like gonna coast where you are instead of work up towards an ideal or something.
Right. And she says in response to that, no, you misunderstand. My mind is where I can be free. She can't touch me there. This is my final act of defiance, just like the expedition is yours.
It's so similar to what Sophie was saying
Yeah.
at the end of her time as well. Yeah, that's so interesting.
So there's more than one way to take your agency back. There's more than one way to defy. This is the way that she chose.
I also think I'd have to bring up, because I didn't do the math properly the first time I played the game. I'm assuming 1 year age of people is, taken away at a time because the number keeps getting lower. But people also get older in the year.
Yeah.
So when the number goes down, it's actually 2 years.
Yes, it's actually
of
like
people.
essentially like 2 years.
So every time. So Maëlle is
lost.
16, but she only has 9 years left.
Yes.
Is what
Right.
Gustav kind of
Because
calculates.
they will keep
so she'll
counting
be
down.
25.
It would go down from 33 to 25 by the time
she got 25.
got to 25.
And then that's
So
it.
yeah, it's like the future for children is actually really, really short.
Really short. And because one of the things is like, why in a normal RPG, there's just, I don't know, there's a part of me that just always asks this question, but like allowing a young woman to go on an expedition with nearly 0 survival rate when your society is like dying is just no culture would ever do that ever, except in certain situations. And this is probably one of them where it's like, look, no one's having kids anymore anyways. There is no outlook. Like we're at the number is so low at this point. Even if you did have a kid, like let's say that Maëlle's young, but like let's say when she was like 20, she had a kid and then she died when it was 5. That kid would only live to be like 12. It's over. It's over basically. So
the next generation
sending even young women out to fight is like, we have no choice. They have to take the risk. They have to take that risk.
The next generation will not be able to birth a next generation.
Exactly.
This is the
They won't
final
even get
generation.
old enough.
The
Yeah.
kids being born now are pretty much the final generation.
Yeah. So when you look at it that way, it's like, oh, well, actually, perfectly logical to send a young woman out to fight who's like, you typically a society would not allow that to happen. But
Yeah, I mean, like the extinction of humanity would happen long before the countdown finished. Like
Right.
you'd get to
Yeah,
a point
yeah.
where kids are not capable of having kids.
exactly.
And they would
So
all
once the
die.
number's at like 8, then it's like there's no more people.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
basically,
then
yes.
I guess it would just keep going down.
Yeah, it would just.
But-
yeah. So they don't have. There is no more like.
Yeah.
Well, the next generation will figure it out. It's like we figure it out, or basically
And
no one.
even people like Emma at some point, because she won't last maybe 1 year and then she's gone 2 or 2, maybe. I don't know how old she is. But at some point, maybe expedition, maybe probably 25 or something like that. It's like everyone just go. Like we're all getting on the boats and we're all going to the unknown continent. I would assume that at some point that just has to be the option because there is no other option. So
Other than laying there and just dying, everyone just dying.
So, and this is, of course, where we talk to Maëlle. She's kind of out there on a pier alone. And we get more of this I don't belong here kind of talk, which you're not really hearing from other people. Gustav, everyone's having a difficult situation here, but Maëlle's is like particularly difficult. That she talks about like everyone I know just keeps dying. She's a foster kid. Like her parents are gone and then the other people are gone. And then now she's with Gustav, but he's only got a year left. And she doesn't seem to have a ton of friends. She doesn't seem to like get along well with the other kids around her on the island. And so she's just ready to go. But she's saying Lumiere's not my home.
Well, you also
and
think,
1 year out there is better than 9 years in here.
yeah,
That was interesting.
You also think of it this way, like even in this group, the group of expeditioners, she's like by far the youngest one.
By far.
Like they're all older than her. They're all in a generation kind of outside of hers. So yeah, she
They grew
kinda
up with the
doesn't
NES
belong
and she's
anywhere.
like a PS3 kid. Like, you don't get it. You don't get it, girl.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's like trying to talk to an 18-year-old about Dragon Quest. So he says, "Don't fetch and get it," or Xenogears or something. But yeah, so she is kind of uniquely in positions over and over and over again where she feels like she doesn't belong. I think that is an important thing to point out.
Yeah.
In the character.
And then when Emma shows up, she says, yeah, this is her line. You and I both know the political complexities that necessitate the expedition. It is vital for morale, but it is a bloodless guillotine. That is what she's saying. So it's so funny to hear this conversation on the back of her speech that she gives. I think that was very intentionally juxtaposed right there, where she's like, I don't believe in any of this stuff. This is stupid. You shouldn't do it. And then literally like 30 seconds later, she's like, the expedition is our only hope. You must go out there and fulfill the wishes of humanity that I have as well as you. And it's so fun. But she is, I thought it was a great speech, actually. There's some good stuff in there.
It's really effective, too, kind of paired with the music.
Seeing all the faces.
Yeah, and right on the back of that gamage, and how just like motivated you are as a player to go out there and end this.
See, this
cruelty.
is great. It's like, I don't care if Emma doesn't believe this. These are the words I need to hear, and these are the words I want to hear.
Yes.
Like whether you're doing it for love, for other people, or for fame, or for whatever your reasons are, and it keeps showing different faces as she goes through all the reasons to do this. Like, go out there and make us proud. Let Expedition 33 be the final expedition. And it's like, yes, I'm excited. It doesn't matter that she doesn't believe this. It doesn't matter.
Do you know
this
why
is the
this
perfect
is
speech.
So great, though?
Yeah.
It's so great that the developers are taking you through this roller coaster of emotions here.
Right.
You've just had this incredibly tragic death scene.
Yeah.
And then they raise you up with this like hope to like be the final expedition and finally end this. And then the second you land on that beach.
Oh my gosh. That was so brutal. That was not expected.
The whole rug is just pulled out. I cannot tell you how much I love this choice. It is so perfect to make the moment of your highest hope so far in the game be so quickly just undercut. And again, to go back to Sophie's conversation with Gustav about how stubborn he is.
Right.
And then even he sort of realizes when basically the entire expedition outside of a very few are just massacred,
just killed
right away.
Yeah.
What was I even thinking?
Right.
Like, this was such a stupid waste of time and a bad time. So they take Gustav there.
The most idealistic, stubborn man in the world. And even he is at a loss once that happens.
So
that was just wild.
It's so great, but I think we'll stop there and come back to that scene and the new mystery they set up with, you're old. Like, there's an old man here who has not died from how is that possible?
He's got to be 50, 60.
And this man just starts massacring us and is trying to stop us. Like, what's going on? Really great mystery and a really great turn in terms of like, there's a lot of things you can have idealism about or that you claim to really believe in.
But when it comes down to it,
when the rubber meets the road, when you really get under pressure, do you really believe that?
Right.
It's kind of like the next question posed to Gustav here.
I love it.
And we'll dive into that next time. But
I love Act 1. I'm so excited
that
to
gets
talk
us
about
into Act 1, which is Gustav.
Yeah.
So our suggestion for the next episode would be to finish the first act, to finish Act 1.
Yeah,
Gustav.
get all the way to the end of Act 1, and it's obvious you will know when Act 1 is over. It's one of the great things I love about this game, that they're not afraid to just give you a title. Just a nice little old-fashioned title page, like a silent movie, just like right in front of your face during your in-between gameplay.
Yeah.
So you'll know when it happens.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. We appreciate you. We hope that you are enjoying the game. We hope that you're excited playing alongside us. I am, it's one of those things where when the thing is new and you're really excited about it and you're talking about how much you love it, there's a lot of initial resistance to that. Like, well, recency bias. Are you really sure? Did you get an advanced copy of the game? Do you have reasons to say it's great, even though it might not be? You get a lot of that kind of skepticism.
Just because of the hype, they're not going to play the game because it can't be this. It is. It's a great
There's
game.
all that talk, and so you take a break, you step back away from it. You
been 6
return
months,
to it
maybe?
months later.
Yeah, 5 months.
And that sort of like build up to the release of the game and the excitement around it has passed.
Yeah.
Most people are done kind of with their discussions on the game.
Like the honeymoon phase.
Yeah, that's over.
Yeah.
And you return to it and you're like, no, man, like this is freaking really good.
It's the real deal.
That is how I feel. So
yeah, me
I'm
too.
excited to keep going. Thanks. We'll see you next time.